What are going to be the rules in a world without rules? What are going to be the laws in a world without laws? Today's video, we're going to be discussing the rules of SHTF and how you can implement them. Hey guys, Titan Apprentice, welcome back to the channel. Last week's video, we talked about how to be a good guy during SHTF. And a lot of people, when they hear SHTF, they immediately think about the fall. The descent into chaos, the descent into madness, going from rules and laws and regulations to a free-for-all. Do what you want because there is no government entity over you. Do whatever the hell you want to do because there is no law enforcement. There is no one commanding anything. You see, when we talk about SHTF, everyone talks about the fall. The fall into chaos, the fall into madness. And if you stay on the fall path, what's the point in living? You stay in the fall and it's going to be destruction, madness, chaos everywhere you look. And a lot of people get stuck that SHTF means just that. But the thing with SHTF is there's multiple parts of it. The fall, the descent is the first one. Over human history, we have descended multiple times. If you look back at Germany right after World War I, they had a hyperinflation scenario going on where every tick, the prices went up on things. So you went to go buy your bread and your eggs and your milk, and by the time you got it to the counter, it had done doubled in price. On top of that, America had descended into the Great Depression, which influenced and affected the German government. Because we were a big trade partner after the war, because we were buying a lot of the stuff that they were making after the war, when we stopped buying products because of our Great Depression, their economy went even worse. The descent into chaos is the first part, but even by descending into chaos, you have to be thinking of the rescue and recovery efforts. It's a lot like a storm. Hurricane Helene hit not 6 months ago at this point, and when it's going on, your only thought is, I need to survive. Don't know how, don't know what I'm going to do, but I need to survive. I want to survive. I want to live. Then part two is rescue and recovery. And that is where rebuilding takes place. When we talk about America, we talk about the Great Depression as our major event. That in the 2008 recession, we descended, and it was bad, it was terrible, it was a horrible event, but then it kind of flatlined. It didn't get any worse, but it wasn't getting any better. People were building communities at that point. During the Great Depression, you had people who, while the descent was happening, were robbing and looting and doing what they could do to collect as much as they could. We're now working on farms for a meal. And that is where community building takes place after SHTF. Sure, we could all go around punching, fighting, kicking, shooting every neighbor that we ever possibly had and rule our great kingdom of 10 acres. But what's going to be the point? You have to find rules and regulations. Rules keep you safe. You might not like the rules, but it prevents chaos. So, what are going to be some rules after SHTF for community building? And this is where I'm really focusing on, is rebuilding the community, because without community, without building something, you're going to be still stuck in this fall stage. I think the first rule is very simple, and it goes all the way back to George Washington times, and that is don't pee in the water source. When you talk about the fall, when you talk about economies crashing, when you talk about the world in which you know no longer exists, you have to understand that there's still bacteria and bad things floating around. People are going to get sick and die. Unlike now where they get sick, they go to the hospital, they don't pay their bill, fantastic, wonderful. People will get sick from the smallest stuff, and bacterial infections are easy to get. And one way to prevent a bacterial infection is don't piss in the water source. Peeing in a water source and then your buddy's downstream drinking it up, he's going to get sick, he's going to die. Or he's going to get sick and you're going to waste all your valuable resources to save him and then the next person's going to get sick. So no bathroom breaks near water sources. This goes back all the way back to George Washington times. When they were on their march, they would watch people as they peed in the water sources, and then the next week, half of them would be sick and couldn't march. Now they're already starving, they're already freezing, you add a sickness onto it, it's not a good mixture. So no peeing in the water source. So everyone uses the same bathroom. Make sure you can keep it as clean as possible. Obviously, modern day, we all have toilets in our home, but what happens when the septic tanks back up? What happens when the water don't go downhill? Now everyone's pooping in a bucket, right? Don't just go and toss that bucket outside in your front yard. Dig a hole. Have a place to put that stuff that is below surface level. Because I don't want me to be tossing poop out and then a big rainstorm comes and it goes everywhere. Dig a hole. Dig a massive hole. Not near a water source and not near a water table if you can help it. The second rule for SHTF, don't steal. Now a lot of people think SHTF, looting, stealing, robbing, right? But if you're trying to rebuild, if you're trying to build up your little community, don't steal from one another. Just because your neighbor, who's part of this community, has better tomatoes, don't go over there stealing his chickens and tomatoes. Because he's got ducks and chickens and livestock and is trading with you, don't go over there taking his and going, I don't know where I got this sheep from. It just wandered in my yard. We can't steal. Now, again, a lot of people think SHTF. You talk about the horrific events that happen when the sun goes down in Venezuela. You go down the wrong street corner, you're going to get robbed, you're going to get looted, you're going to get mugged. Happens in Chicago, happens in Los Angeles, happens everywhere. Even the big cities in South Carolina where no one knows the names, it happens. Those places, when they fall, they will stay in the fallen state. I'm thinking backcountry, you got you and a couple neighbors within a couple acres, right? You will never be able to rebuild in the cities. Overseas, you get caught stealing, you lose your wrist, you lose your arm. I'd maybe implement some sort of rule from that. But again, we're talking about building a community. You're talking about helping out the neighbors. You're talking about rebuilding with said neighbors. Don't be stealing. Don't be making enemies with the neighbors. Rule number 3 for SHTF community rebuilding is work to eat. In a community, everyone will have a specific job. Maybe you're the town doc. Maybe you're pulling security. Maybe you're the hunter-gatherer. But this is how human civilization has progressed over time. Everyone has a job. You do that job, you do it well, you get fed at the end of the day. You cannot have people sitting around doing nothing, being lazy, sitting in bed, playing, I don't know, not Xbox because the power will be out, playing Uno or cards or whatever, and expect that same person to get a meal. If you don't eat, you starve. If you don't work, you starve. Number 4, no wasting resources. Food, water, energy, anything that you make, no wasting it. Again, SHTF is going to be about the limited amount of resources, and that's why people would die if there was an EMP or some sort of massive scenario. Is you have resources and then you have limited resources, and when those resources start running out and you can't resupply them, then what? So when we talk about wasting resources, maybe you don't have a creek on your property. Maybe you have a well. You don't want a guy out here taking a 45-minute shower every single day when you can get the job done in 5. Maybe you take a hoe bath, maybe you take a sponge bath, but you don't want him to sit there and you've built some sort of 55-gallon drum shower system and he's out there just wasting all the hot water. Because that is a resource that is limited. Food. If I sit down right now to my kids and I say, here's dinner, and they say, I don't want it, go to bed hungry, right? You cannot waste resources. During the Great Depression, they used to leave a pot on the stove and whatever the leftovers were scraped into the pot, and then it became a goulash. It became a mixture of whatever you had throughout the week, and you just go get you a spoonful of it, get you a bowl full of it, and that's what you were eating on. Because they could not waste resources. And anything and everything that they used had a purpose. If they slaughtered a cow, yes, they used the meat, but then everything else got used as well. You can't waste resources, and especially electricity. I've watched so many people during power outage scenarios sit there and they'll run their generator 24/7 nonstop. My generator is for my freezers and my fridge. That is it. mostly in my freezers, because that is a food source that I don't want to lose. Sure, if we have good enough sun, we might hook a TV up and watch an hour or two of TV, because we are pulling in more solar than what we're using for the batteries. But if not, I'm not going to sit there and run the TV and the fridge and the coffee maker and the washer and dryer and all this other stuff when I know my limited resource is dwindling quick. The fifth rule for SHTF, basic humanity. Last week's video, I talked about will you be the good guy during SHTF, and I said the people giving away everything are a no-go. The people shooting everybody that walks on their property are a no-go, right? So you have to be somewhere in the middle. When we talk about the fall, Mad Max scenario, walking around, getting every person you see, how are you going to be able to make it through that event and say, you know what, I had basic humanity? I don't know if you can. Maybe you can, maybe it won't catch up to you, maybe it will later on in your life when you die 97. Who knows? If you are rebuilding a community after an SHTF event has occurred, you are going to run into people who are wanting to loot, steal, ask for help, ask for free handouts, ask for anything, or take what they can. You have to have the rules and laws about what happens if somebody jumps your fence and steals some property. But you also have to have rules and laws about what happens if somebody knocks on your door and asks you for a cup of sugar. You cannot rebuild a community if you wipe out the community. Keep your humanity the best you can, because that's what's going to get you through. Some sort of faith, some sort of humanity, some sort of decency. And at the end of the day, you can sit back and you say, hey, we did good rebuilding this community. Let me know what you guys think. Again, a little topic discussion video. Let me know what you guys think. Do you have rules? Have you thought about the rules? Is it going to be shoot anything that moves, or is it going to be give away all your stuff? Let me know what you guys think down below. And that's all I got for today's video. Y'all stay safe out there. T2 out.